Now this week we're going to discuss the early operas of the Baroque, and we're also going to look at assignment 29. So on the picture here you see something from Greek mythology. We have Orpheus with his lute, and he's followed here by his wife Eurydice, and we will now see why she follows him and he is not looking at her. Now let's read in your books about the early operas that we had beginning of the early Baroque. In 1597, the new ideas were applied to a full-length music drama, what we would call the first opera. This was Daphne, based, like many operas, for the next 2 centuries on an old Greek legend. So they made use of mythology. The composer was Jacopo Peri, but unfortunately we only have a few fragments of his work today. The first opera to come down to us complete is Eurydice, with music by 2 composers. They both used this Greek legend for an opera. The one was also Jacopo Peri and the other one was Caccini. Now last week we looked at something of Caccini. In the previous video I discussed assignment 28, and we also met the composer Giulio Caccini with his song Amarilli. We listened to that, and you had as an assignment, you had to say and mention the instrument that plays the basso continuo in Amarilli. We discovered that that was the lute, and the continuo instrument providing the chords, that was also the lute, and the texture of this music was homophonic and not polyphonic. And that was the basis of the first operas. After these 2 composers, other operas were also composed, and the idea became extremely popular. These early operas include brief choruses. Now a chorus is when I have a group of singers singing together. We had dances and we had instrumental pieces. And these instrumental pieces played in simple chordal style, involving a small orchestra consisting of rather a haphazard collection of instruments. So it was not a structured orchestra that we had. They made use of the instruments that they had available. The long stretches of recitative, however, tended to sound monotonous. So now we know, last week we did the 2 types of recitative, the secco and the accompagnato, and we know that they fit in a lot of words, and it's not as interesting as the aria where the singers show off. So in these first operas, they had long sections of recitative, so that became very boring. If opera was to survive, a genius was needed to breathe life and excitement into the style. So we had the composer Claudio Monteverdi, and his life spans the late 16th and the early 17th century. There you see his date of birth, 1567, and he died in 1643. So this is also early Baroque, and we know that the Baroque time started in the 1600s. Now the new monody, with its switch to melody accompanied by simple chord, was considered very modern and labeled stil moderno. I see the word modern there, so it was in a modern style. However, a great deal of music, especially for the church, was still composed in contrapuntal style, now called in that time stil antico, in the antique style. Some composers, including Monteverdi, cleverly drew on both styles. Fio, composed in 1607, is the first truly great opera. His music very effectively heightens the dramatic impact of the story. So his music and the score, his orchestra and the singing, it heightens the words, the impact of the words. He highlights powerful emotion in recitative passages by bringing leaps and chromatic intervals into the voice line. So he made that melody interesting. This week we're also going to look at melody with your elements. So you're going to know the meaning of the word leap and stepwise, diatonic scales and chromatic scales, while the accompaniment provides unexpected harmonies, including frequent discords. So sometimes it sounded a little bit false, as if the note is not supposed to be there. There are short but dramatic choruses and instrumental pieces in which Monteverdi boldly experiments with new combinations of tone colors. So tone colors, different instruments that he used. He uses an orchestra of 40 or so richly varied instruments, including violins, which are now beginning to take the place of viols. That's the old instrument, though for some while both play side by side. So in the early orchestra, we had the violins, the modern instrument, playing alongside the viol. So try to look at the picture, find a picture of the old viols. I already mentioned to you that they held it like a cello. It was like a smaller version of the cello, and that's the way that they held it on their laps. Now your assignment for the week is assignment 29. Find out about the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. Then listen to a scene from Monteverdi's opera, such as the second half of Act 4. This takes place in the underworld and includes a chorus of spirits and an aria. We now know that an aria is a song because we did the Da Capo ario. And you have to listen to that song, Qual Honor, for Orfeo. In each verse, the melody is varied above an identically repeated bass. So the bass stays the same, but we have a variation in the melody. Notice how the rhythm of this bass line continually causes the music to press steadily forward. So we have that rhythmical drive and long lines. This kind of purposefully moving bass line was to become one of the fingerprints of the Baroque style. So that's one of the characteristics of the Baroque style, that rhythm that is pressed forward the whole time and steadily forward. Before each verse of this aria, we hear an instrumental ritornello. That's also a word we know by now, meaning return. So we have the instruments always returning with the same melody. After Orpheus' aria, there follow recitative passages as he risks a backward glance at Eurydice, and by doing so, loses her forever. So let's go through the story now. On YouTube, you will also have recordings of the story, but I just summed up so that you have the background, and that you can see it's based on a Greek legend and mythology. There once lived a great musician in Greece whose name was Orpheus. He could produce wonderful tunes when he played on his lyre. Even wild animals stopped to listen to his music. His wife, Eurydice, loved him very deeply. While Eurydice was picking flowers in the woods, a venomous snake bit her. She died at once. The life of Orpheus changed completely. He could neither play his lyre nor sing. His friends advised him not to go to Hades in the underworld to ask if she can return, because he will have to face difficulties. So along the way, he faced a lot of difficulties reaching the underworld. Orpheus set out for this journey to Hades with his lyre. When he reached the river of death, he asked the boatman to carry him to the other side of the river. The boatman refused because the job of the boatman was to only carry dead bodies to the other side. The music of the lyre moved the boatman's heart, so he willingly carried Orpheus across. At the gate of Hades, a fierce dog was guarding. So if you find the story, you will see that this is not a normal dog. Orpheus quickly played his lyre and Orpheus could enter. When the god of death asked who he was, Orpheus told his story. The god of death refused to send his wife back, but Orpheus began to play his lyre to please the god of death, Pluto. His music touched the heart of Pluto, and he agreed to send Eurydice back on one condition. The condition was that Orpheus could not look at her until they are out of the underworld. While they were going back to the earth, Orpheus was playing on his lyre. Eurydice was following behind him. A few more steps and they would be outside the kingdom. But Orpheus had no patience. When he looked behind him, Eurydice was still following him with a smile on her face. She asked her husband, "Why did you forget Pluto's command?" Then she disappeared forever. Sadly, Orpheus returned to the earth alone and passed his life among birds and trees. So also find your own story, and maybe go on YouTube, go to the definition, and go and really research Orfeo and Eurydice, that you know the story. I corrected that. I saw a mistake there. So you need to know the story. Now we have specific homework for this week. We have to answer after listening to Orfeo's aria, that Qual Honor. You see the name there, Qual Honor. You have to say which instruments play the ritornello in Orfeo's aria. We know ritornello means that we have a return, that in between the singing we have that instrumental return of instruments. Then we have a continue, which continue instruments are used in the recitative passages. We know that the continue, we have usually a harpsichord that must do the figured bass, and we have a cello playing the bass notes. So listen to what you hear there. How does Monteverdi bring drama and emotion to the recitative? So is the music loud? Is it sad? What tension do you hear there? This scene ends with an orchestral symphonia. That means sounding together. Identify some of the instruments included here. So you have to listen to this aria, and these are the questions that you have to answer on the Google Classroom. Different examples on YouTube that you can find and listen to, but I will include this one for you. So try and watch all the instruments that you see there. There I hear the ritornello again. I hear the basso continuo. I hear the cello and the harpsichord. That sounds more like a recitative. Do you see how it changes for that dramatic effect and the emotion? It changes the tempo there. And a lot of chordal accompaniment, not always using all the instruments.